Welcome to The Jewish Lens, a podcast to discuss anything and everything from a Jewish perspective. Now, please help me welcome the man who controls the media, your host, Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and today I'm thrilled to welcome a French photographer who is behind a really cool concept, the Israeli Jazz Project. Please help me welcome Raphael Perez. Raphael, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, we have a lot to cover, but I want to start by going back with you. So you grew up in Tunisia, right? So what was life like for you there? And also, what was life like for you with regard to Judaism? Did you observant at all?
Yeah, first, I'm an observant, but for talking about my life in Tunisia, that's difficult because I left Tunisia, I was 7 years old. It was in 67.
Hmm.
We flew out of Tunisia because of the Six-Day Wars uprising in the countries. So I do not have many souvenirs. My father was also a photographer, so I
Or
have
was
a
he?
lot of printed souvenirs, conversation with the family, with my lost parents, but not really my own souvenirs.
So, life was tough as a Jew in Tunisia, from what you remember, or no?
No, I have no those souvenirs. The souvenirs, I would say, the summary of what I understood is that the life was wonderful for Jewish people.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, it changed with the Six-Day War, where the Tunisian people and countries supported the Arab countries
Hmm.
attacking Israel. That moment was hard and hard enough for my parents and thousands of Jewish to leave the country.
Uh-huh.
But before that, my parents were talking only and mostly only about very nice moments with a Jewish life, liberty, freedom, and, in a sunny country, seaside. So nice moment before that.
So that's what prompted your family to move to France?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have been taken out of the schools by my parents with big demonstration in the street. They fired the synagogue, so it was really an emergency day, and we left very quickly. My parents were French, and we had some facilities for the customs, the um, for recovering our furnitures and things we had at home. It
Mhm.
was not as easy for Jewish from Tunisia. Tunisian citizenships had more difficulties to quickly leave, and many of them left the country with one suitcase, for the
Wow.
family.
So when you first got to France, so how were things back then for Jews back then? I mean, was it things okay? Was it easier?
Now, I was a kid, so I do not have, I would say, souvenirs, but what I can tell you is
Memory.
that we left Tunisia on a very short notice. We had no home in France.
Wow.
We left at elder brother of my father in a place of the home for a few months, the time
Hmm.
to find something. I remember that the period 67 was very different from economic and social conditions. My father, coming from Tunisia, found a job in few weeks. We
As a
found a
photographer?
home. Sorry?
As
No,
a
no, he
photographer?
was an accountant.
Count.
In
Okay.
Tunisia, he was running the biggest cinema of the city.
Oh, wow.
It was called Le Paris, in name of the city, Paris, located in Avenue de Paris, Paris Avenue. It
Mhm.
was a very nice place. I was spending days there. No, he was an accountant here, and he made his career in France, in finance and accounting. Um, but he had the luck to find a job very quickly.
Hmm.
So it was not difficult. I never really faced anti-Semitism until the last 2 years with what happened after October 7. Not directly, but the atmosphere is
Uh-huh.
so different. I never knew that before in France.
But I mean, from what I saw in France, it's been going that way since even before October 7th. It's been I've seen a lot of things, bad things for Jews even before October 7th, but since October 7th, it's been much worse from what I see there. So you didn't feel it really until October 7th?
What you say is right, and I need to be more precise. Until October 7, it was many anti-Semitism action here and there, but it was not a massive phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
It was something that could arise anywhere
Right.
from, the Muslim immigration in a non-organized way. Um, and of course, many Jewish have been killed in France only because they were Jewish, even
Hmm.
kids, many stories. But it was not an anti Semitic atmosphere everywhere, I mean. Um, Also, just because I have many friends in the US and in New York, you never felt anti-Semitism. It's true that in France, because of probably the old World War II sentiment and added to the Muslim immigration, we were taking care as a Jewish. So we were prepared, I would say, to this increase, terrible increase in the anti-Semitic sentiment that some politic parties are now owning and working with
Right.
as prospecting with. They want this to be their flagship, to be recognized as this. This was not never existed. Even we have laws in France, and this is another very different point that in the US. In France, you cannot and you could not say I am against the Jewish because antisemitism is a breach of law.
Right.
You can be sued if you say that. So of course, all of a sudden you have many anti-Zionist people,
Of course.
and
Right.
they use another word, okay?
Right.
And that's it. That's it. And this
So
is new.
do you feel it when you go out? Do you feel, is there, like you said, there's an atmosphere, but is it something that you feel every day going out as a Jew in France now?
Not myself, because at my age, I'm not very often walking anywhere. But what I feel is that the young people, the 20, 30, the one getting out, walking in the street, getting to a club, meeting
Hmm.
people in a swimming pool or whatever, those have new feelings of these difficulties that I never met. Me, I am in my car driving to a meeting, going to a restaurant or to a party or whatever. I'm not really, but the young people, as I was, that are going from a place to another, stopping by those one, and in the high school, as you had in your universities, I'm not living the same way that it was 3 years ago.
Well,
Very different. This is very different.
that's terrible. So, wait, let me go back to you. So you grew up basically in France. You were a young child when you moved to France. So you started getting in, your father was a photographer. You started getting into art as a child?
I was very a music lover of all type of music, practicing a lot of photographies. But I made a general education in high tech and economy. This is where I worked. But I was always practicing as a photographer as a hobby, and I would know independent worker,
Hmm.
finding some job, not for the reason to find money, because I was lucky to have a very good job, but because when you have a customer asking you for a mission, you have a very different relation to what you generate as a work for photography work that when you do your own hobby for yourself. It's good to be measured by that. And this is how I have been driven to those musician portraits, by the way. Uh, that was my project the
I'm
last
going to
year.
ask about that. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So, so when did you start getting into photography? When did you start finding an interest in that? How old were you?
So I was 10 years old when
Oh,
I
wow.
really had my own camera. My father old camera he gave to me, and so very young. In my group of friends, I was the one making the photos during vacation, school time. Like in all group of young people, you have one. I was this one. So we are all now that we get older calling me, do you have photographies of this vacation, this party? And I'm digging into my archives. And another date is 2012 when I installed me in the same time that I was working in high tech, that installed me and declare my independent company of photographer
Hmm.
when I started to have customer. Until now, it was only a hobby, and I started that 13 years ago.
Now, so who were some of your influences, I guess, growing up? Who were some of the people that you admired?
You mean in photography or in
Yeah,
general?
in general.
In general, so my education has been an open Jewish education. So my father taught us, and my mother, a Jewish tradition, but always with giving us an important sense of personal decision, of free position in any topic.
Hmm.
Of course, you couldn't say I don't want to do that because when it was a basis, but for all the way to position yourself, and it was very, very open. And reading, I read a lot always. So all my readings brought me a lot of knowledge about people relation, creativity. It was my main source of influence was through the readings. And my father, when I was me or my daughters, when we got a good notation at school, you know what we get? Which show do I got you to? So since I was a kid, I was every Saturday in the movie because it was what we brought from Tunisia. It was every day, it was every Saturday, and every good appreciation at school, we had a right to choose a show, music or theater or whatever. So the cultural life has been always present in my life, and this is very, very good feeding for the spirit, of course, for the mind.
And how about photography? Do you have any particular people that you really admired growing up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In photography, as you know, you make a shot, you print it, and you have a scene. And the work start when you have a consistency over your work. And in this consistency that all the photographer tries to do, um, the one putting in advance the social life, the community life is very important for me. And in France, we have people like Robert Doisneau or Henri Cartier-Bresson that are really, really strong and that I love.
Very nice. So photography, the thing that you and I first started talking about is this project, the Israeli Jazz Project, and it all started from photography. So can you tell me about the beginning of it? How did it all start coming about?
It's very funny. We had the event for launching the book 3 days last Tuesday in Paris,
Say
and
the
I
name of the
got
book.
sorry.
Say the name of the book.
So the book it's about Israeli jazz, and the title is Israeli Jazz: The Blend of Blends. I will
Okay.
tell you a
Yes.
little more after. So someone asked me this question. It's funny because I started the project after starting the photographies.
Right.
In fact, it started one day when I realized on my photographies that I met and shot 26 or 7 at that time Israeli musician, but it was not my own desire or research. So I saw that and I started to have questions. Why? How? As I knew, I didn't research to
Right.
show them. So I have asked the question to professional. My customers were from music labels, from music newspapers or radios, and they all told me, yes, Raphael, it's a very important topic. Those guys are creating a very nice music. Bec- Thanks to this music, we are receiving a new audience in the hall when there is a concert and when listening radios on or buying magazines, younger customers. And they all said, the three of them said to me, nothing has never been done about this topic. If you do something, we can help you. So the help was not major, but they were supportive all along this work. And I decided first to make a photographer book. I will choose some of my photos.
Right.
I will put some caption about who is this man or this woman in the photos. And when I started that, I knew that I had to expand the number of people I meet. But when I started to write about them, I saw that the story was behind and bigger than the life of each one. And it drove me to make this book, which is now a book. I will show it to you.
Yes, please.
This is a book. Oh, let me
It's,
remove
I'm going
the.
to have to get, I'll put a picture up when we do this as well, but yes.
Yeah, because it's. Okay. You should see it better. No?
It's
Okay. Okay.
okay, I will put a picture.
I will send you a picture.
Okay.
What I say is that the book now has 92 musicians I met and shot because it has been for 6 years, and a first part which is very very nice that I wrote that I cover the history of the Israeli jazz, how it arrived in Israel with British armies in the 20s
Hmm.
until today. I present the education system, how it has been starting, jazz education system in Israel until today. By the way, the most important music school in Israel is called Rimon School, and they are celebrating the 40 years this week,
Wow.
Rimon School. Then I talk, of course, presenting the jazz scene in Israel, the clubs and festivals. And all this is made with many, many interviews of the active people in this industry. And I have a special chapter of what we call the Big Bang of the Israeli jazz, which is, and this is a very nice story, which is what happened since the 90s until today. So, in fact, in the 90s, in 92, I think, for the first time, some four young Israeli jazzmen on their 20s, I would say 21, after the army, they decided that the country was small. They studied music and they wanted to make their own career in New York, in the US. So they arrived in New York, and they saw it was really a difficult life. They struggled. They were very helping them. They were together, and they started to make their own path in the city and creating their relation and making their first important achievement. Those guys were um, Avishai Cohen, the bass player, very
Wow.
famous, probably the most famous Israeli musician, jazzman today in the world. Omer Avital, who is also a bass player living in New York. And it was also Amos Hoffman, guitar and oud player, and Avi Lebovich, a trombonist. And those guys created that launch a trend. And if we go today we have more than 250 Israeli musicians in the East Coast
Hmm.
between New York and Boston because they have started to study in Israel and finishing their studies in the US, East Coast, three schools mostly, Berkeley in Boston, and New School in New York are the two most important schools where you can find Israeli students. And of course, many of them, after the studies, start for some years their career in New York because they leverage and they make profit of the relation they build during this time. And it's very nice phenomenon. The nice thing is that today the results is that a very very important wave of Israeli jazzmen are playing everywhere and appreciated for the music they created.
So jazz has been around. So people from the 1920s, jazz has been around in Israel, like introduced there to people.
The jazz really started in Israel in 1920 with American Army, but the first Israeli jazz band was in the mid 50s,
Hmm.
and the trend grown and started to be important in the mid 50s.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, 70s, when here we had no education offer in Israel for an high level. So people started to travel to the US to study and returning to Israel.
Hmm.
In the 90s, we have those four kids who decided to go and make a career in New York. And it was the last level that brought to the international grown up and success of those guys.
So today, so you're saying that, but today jazz has become like a really popular form of music in Israel?
Yes, and it's important to ask why.
Hmm.
Because there are not a lot of countries where jazz is a very popular music. Huh? In Israel, so the jazz, it's a music created end of the 19th century after the black Afro-American population
Hmm.
get freed. And as a very positive moment, they create this music and was a positive contribution to American culture, as
Right.
you know. Jazz is also a music by construction opened to external type of music and culture. Okay? When the jazz started in Israel, and Israel is a very multicultural society. You have people from very many different countries. All of them listened to different music at home where they were kids. And when the jazz started to be a little popular, many music students chose the jazz to study it and then to put into the jazz the component of the music they remember of their young days. So today, the Israeli jazz is made of this combination between Oriental music, Middle Eastern, sometimes Andalusia music,
Hmm.
mixed into a basis of jazz. And this is a type of music that is very popular in many countries.
Let me ask, with is jazz now popular in Israel? Is there like a Israeli jazz style that maybe is not in other places? Is there a certain style that the Israeli musicians have come up with that's not similar to like other places in the world?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The musicians are all starting by studying the classical jazz, the American music,
Hmm.
okay? But then they inside in it, they put in it their own music, their own traditional family music. But what is very funny is that jazz, by definition, the main educator in jazz for the pupil, for the students that reach a certain level, the word is play your own music. Take the jazz and put yourself and your family culture in it. It's in the jazz. It's not coming from Israel, these sentences, okay? So the jazz was a good thing for allowing those young Israelis. And this is coming, of course, in a story where you had, the creation of Israel, the need for the rulers in the beginning to ask every people not to speak another language than the Hebrew that no one of the immigrants knew really. In the best case, they knew ancient Hebrew of their prayers, but the modern Hebrew was unknown by all of them. The government at that time created a book with 200 and some new music, and they said our culture now is on this book, so the stories and the music we will have all the same. You the German don't bring German music, you the Moroccan don't bring Moroccan music. We have the same group of music that will be, we call them very often halutzik music. And this is a very big parallel with the jazz. It's very funny. Let me tell you what I mean. When the jazz started in the US very early in the 1920, 30, we saw classical American music of what we call the Great American Songbook has been taken and reharmonized with a jazz type.
With a flavor, right?
Okay? In Israel, with these bodies of music that is called Shirei Eretz Israel, which is Halutzik music, we have seen the same phenomenon in the 60s and 70s. And the first jazz composition, the first records, the first festivals were very easy to communicate to the country because it was Israeli music made with a jazz flavor, as what happened in the US 100 years ago.
Hmm.
And it brought to the same thing at the end. It
Wow.
was very nice to see that.
And so you started contacting when you started doing the book. You started contacting Israeli musicians to be part of the book. So was that how was that? Was that easy for you, or did a lot of people want to do it, or no?
Most of them were very open. First, what was nice is that I was already a photographer making musician portraits. So I had a certain liability when I was talking to them. I have a website with
Right.
musicians, with background in media. So, second, I had already these 30, 32 Israeli musicians I made that helped me to make the bridge. And what I heard from the professional I asked, what do you think of? I told you in the beginning.
Right.
When I went to the Israeli musician, I know they had the same feeling. They all were thinking because before I talked to them, all were thinking no one never spent time about us, so they were all happy, and I was happy to be this one, really. So I can say that it has been very easy to work with them. Of course, problems of agendas arise very often to
Hmm.
travelers and things like that.
Sure.
Some of them has been wonderful. It was no selection to be part of the book. Only, of course, the possibility to meet. Some of them has been wonderful, but we never met. Unfortunately, I'm thinking about three of them. But but in general, it was a wonderful human experience to meet them, to listen to them, and to talk about their music. And I'm now traveling a lot to meet them everywhere, mostly in Israel
Oh,
or
that's
in
fantastic.
France and around. And it was nice. 92 of them are in the book.
Wow, that's a lot. That's really so. This, but it's also a museum exhibit, right? There's an exhibit showing
Yes,
this.
yeah, yeah. We have a turning exhibition. There
Okay.
is, for example, now an exhibition in Paris
Okay.
that started last week with the launch event of the book in a cultural center. We did it in Israel. I'm working for probably an event in Germany very soon. And my big project now is to work to start in the US. It's not
Right.
easy, but the place is very important in US for many reasons. For first, this is the country of jazz. Second, the links between countries, Israel and America and US are very important. And as I tell it shortly before, the development pattern of the jazz in Israel has been very similar to what happened in the US, and it's nice to see that.
So, which museum are you talking to? Museums in like New York or like hopefully
I'm not
Florida?
talking to
So,
museum. I'm talking to some culture centers.
okay.
It's not easy. It's complicated. Many want, but then you have the logistical thing, find a date, find the budgets, and now that the book is out, is really my priority for the next month.
Right. And so, well, I hope it comes to Florida also. I'd love to see that exhibit.
I'd
So,
love to.
so what's the organization that's involved? Safe Heart. Can you tell me about them?
So Safe Heart was very involved about nearly a year ago. So so let me tell you our story. You will understand how we
Sure.
met. our story, I mean, the story of the book is that it was a project that rise is peak in summer 23. We were presented and exhibited in one of the biggest jazz festival in Europe. It's in south of France, in a city called Antibes Juan les Pins. So it was very nice because our goal, of course, was to take the Israeli culture out of Israeli slash Jewish communities
Mm.
because this is the goal of what we do. So it was wonderful, and then happened, and then sorry, the next step was the release of the book end of November 24, 23. Then Arise happened October 7, and all the plan was killed. And it's nothing when we know what happened to the guy in the south of Israel. After that, we, like all the Jewish people, were really not doing our daily job. We were doing other things,
Right.
trying to help. And one day I was called with a friend in Israel, the president of the Israeli Jazz Association, telling me, Raphael, the musicians have no life. They do not meet no one. It was no planes, no concert, nothing, you know. You remember this. And in December 23, we started to organize YouTube shows, so concerts
Mhm.
from Israel broadcasted with YouTube anywhere,
Oh, that's great.
and people were able to make a donation. And this donation, we decided to give it to an organization called Safe Heart that was providing a psychological post-traumatic cares to the young people following the Nova Festival of Music.
Okay.
So we did several things with them. To be honest, we are no more continuing. I think that now things are well organized, but it was a way to help, and we did it with through Safe Earth between December 23 until May 24.
That's great. That's really nice. So, okay, so what are you working on next? What's your next project?
So I have a double project.
Okay.
First, this one, we have the book. We are giving a lot of conferences here in France and around. And we made it in Israel. We do it very often in Israel. My goal is really the US. It's very important. And we do that in a non-profit organization. I have a business background, so this is the way I'm talking, but I am a full volunteer. I'm putting more money that, and I have never got a penny from it. But my goal is to bring it to the US and Canada, where I know we have a lot of people we talk with who
Sure.
would like to take
Absolutely.
up. This is first. So this is the continuation of what we did. The second thing is today we have a book with a content, and this content will probably give soon a series of podcasts,
Oh, nice.
and we work to have probably soon after uh, a movie version. This is
Oh,
what we work. We
oh,
started.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
With the musicians involved?
Some of them probably. Yeah. Some of them. Too
Documentary.
early to be more precise. Maybe we need 6, 8 months to be more precise, but we are finalizing the script and the story and the support because it's another level of project, and this is our goal.
Well, you'll come back on and we'll talk about it when you have that done.
With pleasure, with
Yes.
pleasure.
And how can people follow you on social media?
So social media, it's easy. We have a website called israelijazz.com in one word.
Right. Okay.
And through this website, you can access our Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and anything to talk or to share with us and to be updated in what we do.
Oh, fantastic. I love the project. As soon as you and I first started speaking about it, I loved hearing all about this project. It's fascinating to me. And I would love for it to start being shown in some US places also.
Oh, let's talk, Jonathan. I would love
Yes,
to.
absolutely. I'm always here for you. But
So I have the project, not in the beginning, but since 3 years, has been even supported by the. So, Israel being a very small country,
Mhm.
the promotion of Israeli culture is made through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And this project is completely referenced by them and they are promoting it to.
Well,
But we need to have local partners to execute the plans. And this is really my priority to have it in the US. Of course, East Coast, Miami are probably the two first spots we will focus on.
well, I'm here. If you need anything, you let me know also. Love to help.
We'll talk
Yes, we will
tomorrow.
talk.
I
Yes.
noted that. I take
Well,
this down.
well, again, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's been such a pleasure getting to hear more about the project and getting to speak with you. And like I said, anytime you want to come back on, you're more than welcome. So,
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Have a
well,
wonderful day. And it was a pleasure for me
you
to talk
too.
with you.
Well, again, this has been The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen. And again, a very special thanks to Raphael Perez. And please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in to The Jewish Lens, where all items used was strictly kosher.